Now it's time for our panel discussion. The discussion is about the evolution of cross-airline partnerships, alliances, sustainability and digital transformation in the APAC region. This session will be moderated by the editor and founder of the Airline Observer, Mr. Brian Summers, and I'd like to welcome him on stage with the following guests. Please welcome back Mr. Andre Viljoen, the CEO of Fiji Airways. I'd like to welcome on stage Mr. Jeff Moomaw, the Vice President of the Asia Pacific for Delta Airlines, Jitendra Sindhwani, the President and Head of Global Sales and Marketing at IBS Software, and David Gunnarson, the CEO at Dohop. Guys, ladies and gentlemen, well, please welcome them on stage.
Brian.
Andre?
Hello, how are you?
Do you guys want to be? No. Right. Okay, I see.
All right.
Very excited to be here with all of you today. Jeff, I'm gonna start. I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Great.
You know, where I come from in Los Angeles, you guys are known as the most profitable carrier in North America. Great onboard experience.
Yeah.
You do not fly to Singapore. You don't fly anywhere around here. What are you doing here? And how do you sell to this market if your tails aren't at the airport?
It's a great question, Brian, and it has everything to do with our global approach to aviation, which is really centered on partnerships. To give you a little bit of perspective, you know, the mission statement at Delta is no one better connects the world. And you're right, coming from Los Angeles, you would have heard about Delta and the awards that we get for CX and how large we are, in many cases, the world's largest airline. But outside of the US is when things start to get much more challenging, right? For us to be able to fulfill that goal, we have got to be able to partner in market with not only the right kind of partner, but the right partnership type. And I'm gonna use Korean Air as an example here, because we talked about Singapore. We're here, Singapore, which is served by our JV partner. We obviously understand that in order to serve a global marketplace, you have to be able to understand the complexities, cultures, nuances, languages, regulations that are all come from just different geographies across the world. And if you try to go it alone, it's just not gonna work out for you. So our philosophy has been, go out and find the right kind of partner. Now, those partners are very rare to find, right? From our standpoint, a partner has got to have a really strong network footprint, right? They've got to have a really strong focus on the customer experience. They have to follow the Delta protocol, which is put employees first to take care of customers. And they also need to have an incredible connecting facility. And we've got all that with Korean Air, and I'll talk about some of that in a moment. If you think just about the network itself, Delta on our own, despite being the world's largest, we could only effectively serve about 70 to 80% of the demand for US to Asia, right? Put Korean Air into that mix, now we effectively cover 100%. Not only does that allow us to serve those markets, it allows us to grow together to make the connectivity much more seamless. The other piece of this is really important is the customer experience. And despite Delta having what we consider to be one of the leading experiences out there in aviation, and Korean Air as well, that's not enough, right? To make a partnership truly beneficial, you've got to connect those two experiences together. And we've all traveled internationally a lot. And when we do, we oftentimes notice that when you go from one carrier to the other, it is not seamless. We've spent a lot of time, we've built models, and we've been implementing these for about 5 years that look at every single touch point along the way. And we try to close every one of those seams that a customer experiences to make it seamless. I'll give you a couple examples, right? One's called seamless check-in, right? Brian, I'm sure you've got the Fly Delta app in your pocket, right? When you go and open it up, you know, and you're flying Korean Air tomorrow, you can check in for that flight, right? That's seamless. It doesn't matter who you're flying on, you're gonna have the same experience in your hand. And then lastly, it's the airport, right? Incheon is a beautiful connecting hub for us, but and one of those things that it brings, despite connecting 2,000 passengers a day, we can do that with a 45-minute MCT, That is almost unheard of in aviation, particularly for a hub of that magnitude, but we're able to pull it off. And one of the things that makes it really incredible for us is behind the scenes, right? In Incheon, because we have a joint venture partnership and we can integrate with each other, we've got teams of folks working side by side, Delta KE, watching every single flight that comes in. If something is ever late at all, we're on top of it, we're accommodating, we're meeting folks, we're doing it all together. Those are what make a truly great partnership. That's what allows us not to just expand and serve, but to serve the way customers want it. And you can't do that outside of a JV. So that's how you got here, Brian, or hopefully that's how you get home, is connecting from one partner to the other in a seamless way.
All right. Very interesting. I flew here nonstop, which was better than that, but maybe someday. David, I know your company pretty well as well, Dohop. You do something completely different as far as connecting traffic, right? It's not about seamlessness and apps and 45-minute connecting times. It's about just getting people from one airline that may not talk to another airline, letting the passengers go back and forth. Oh, why is that a better model, or is it just a different market that you're working with?
Yeah, I think it's the latter. It's not necessarily a better model. I think it's really about that exactly. It's about kind of, not the airlines making the decision to work together, which I think that's a great model and works pretty well. I'll say that in some cases it's not seamless. I mean, I was coming here, I was on a QR ticket, on a Qatar Airways ticket, first leg on Finnair, and like if I hadn't been in the industry, I would have been completely lost somewhere along the way, right? Because I couldn't get my boarding passes through the app, or neither Finnair nor Qatar, and all things. Anyway, so it's not always seamless, but it in some cases it is, and then I think it works really well. Our model is more about kind of being able to make these decisions, whether you're a full service carrier or a low cost carrier, no matter who you want to work with, what sort of part of the airline world you sit in, and working together across those borders, and really being able to provide that choice to the customer, right? If the customer wants to travel and transit, kind of on a complex itinerary where they're basically self-connecting, picking up their bags along the way, all of these things, we feel that that's a great opportunity, right? And lo and behold, a lot of people want to buy that. So there's definitely a market. Now that has evolved from basically being kind of completely standalone to slowly transitioning into at least awareness that from each of the airlines on the journey that this is a connecting passenger, and soon to be, of course, including a checked bag that travels all the way through. So it's starting to sort of point in the direction of code shares or interlines, but still being sort of separate products. And there might be misalignment in carry-ons or checked bags in terms of weight and things like that. But it does turn out that it is a different market, that it's really kind of an expansion of the market. So we're going into allowing people to travel where they wouldn't otherwise. And sometimes it's about making a market that's not already there. And we do see that half of what we facilitate through airlines, through our partnerships with airlines, is where there's no option but to connect. And then if you're already connecting, to your point on flying direct is better, yes. But if you're already connecting anyway, it maybe isn't a huge difference whether you have to clear immigration security and then go back in through security versus a seamless journey where you stay airside. But and then the other half of what we sell, there is direct service, but ours is, but what we facilitate is either cheaper or more convenient, or more likely a combination of both.
Thank you. And Andre, you're a much smaller airline, and you rely on a lot of feed from your partners all over the world. Is it important that those people have a seamless check-in experience, a seamless experience all the way through, or as long as they make it from their first airline to you and you take them to Fiji, is that enough?
There's no question we would be better off with far more seamless facilities. We're a junior member of One World. It's called Connect, and it's not quite working the way we want. We want to see a full membership because we think we'll then get all the seamless benefits. At this stage, it's partially working.
Okay, so I think I was there at the press conference announcing the One World Connect. I think it was at an IATA AGM, and they tend to overpromise at these press conferences. And they said not only was Fiji Airways the first One World Connect member, but they were going to be the first of many, and it was going to be so popular. Then I went on Google before this, and I saw that you're the only member. What happened to One World Connect?
I think you have to ask One World there. Wrong person to ask. But bottom line is that we had a lot of expectations, and I think they experimented with it, but it hasn't quite turned out to be as we wished. And we're in discussion to take it further.
So, you talked to a lot of airline people, and I think the pandemic changed it a little bit. But 2018, 2019, there was this question, a lot of airlines were doing the Delta model, right, with joint ventures and investments. And an alliance didn't really matter anymore. But you're saying these alliances still matter?
No, undoubtedly.
Undoubtedly.
We have bilateral relationships with those 4 major, if I can call it, the founder airlines of One World. But going to a full membership will deepen the partnership. There's no question about it.
Great. I want to switch topics here, Jimpy, and go to you. Your expertise is sort of digital transformation, right?
Yep.
Is anybody getting digital transformation right, either in this region of the world or any region of the world?
Yes, actually, I would think that's absolutely happening. Most of the companies are embarking on the journey in the right direction. I think one thing that has happened, I spent many years outside of the travel industry before I moved to travel industry, and I realized that travel industry is going through the same transformation which some of the other industries went through a few years ago. So they're catching the same wave now, and across the board, I think there is a clear understanding that technology is going to be a very important part in helping you improve your business completely, right? Whether it's a customer touch point to growing your business to making your process efficient, technology is the one that's going to make it happen for you. So again, different segments of the market, different players are at different stages of their journey, but they all seem to be moving in the right direction for sure. That's happening.
I mean, we just heard that a lot of airlines can't even have their systems talk to each other so the customer has a seamless experience, But you don't think airlines are behind?
Airlines are definitely behind, absolutely. I think there's still quite a few loose ends. There are quite a few points at which the data drops, the seamless experience drops. I think that's absolutely going to change as you look at the future, but you're right, we are not there yet, absolutely not. I think I would say we are at the beginning of the transformation when it comes to this industry. See, there are a lot of point solutions that have been brought in. We heard what some of the other players also talking about. There are a lot of players out here also who solve point problems. But I think the important thing is if you have a clear vision of where you need to reach, work backwards from there and have a clear journey as to how you're going to reach that stage with technology becoming a very key component of that. I think that part has to be still fully baked into the program. A point solution is not going to help you. It's an overall transformation that you need to look at.
All right. I have to ask you a version before we move on of a question I asked this morning, because it seems like you go to these conferences, and people talk on stage, and they use the letters AI, and they think that they're so smart. But you work in this industry, and I'm curious, how is AI going to change the airline industry?
Yeah, AI is, to some extent, a glorified term, let me put it that way. There is a lot of capability it brings to the table because simply your ability to process the data and help you with better decision making. For example, personalization, right? AI is going to play a big role in personalization for sure because the more you can predict the behavior of the customer, the better you can serve them. It's a very simple philosophy. Today, you have the ability for the processing power and the algorithms to do that for you. But are you getting the right data and do you understand what problems you're trying to solve? I think that's important because there's a saying that I always believe that if you torture the data enough, it'll confess to anything. I think don't take that approach, Understand the business problem you're trying to solve, and then AI can help you solve that problem. So, but the reverse of just thinking that, hey, I'm going to bring some AI-based solution and it's going to solve my problems, that's not going to happen.
All right, I want to bring it back to sort of old school airline problems. Jeff, I like to put you on the spot, right? Because I fly your airline sometimes. This can be a bit of an ego-driven business, right? Especially in terms of where you put your metal. A lot of airlines like to have their tails in Singapore for no other reason than your tail's in Singapore, so that means you matter as an airline. You talked about your reliance on partnerships. Do you think it doesn't matter as much where that Delta tail is?
It's a really good question, Brian. I think it actually matters less because of the partnership that we've created, right? One of the benefits of these joint venture partnerships is we have antitrust immunity, which allows us to coordinate on network, right? And every airline has a different fleet type, different number of fleet, different places they fly, different expertises. And this enables us to put the right metal in the right market to serve that customer demand. So yes, on one hand, there's an element of presence to it. On another, it's less relevant from the customer experience standpoint. And let me give you one other context on this and why the partnerships are so important and where ego goes away, right? In the US, everyone's heard of Delta, right? It's just a household name because oftentimes we're part of everyone's day-to-day life. Well, you venture outside of the US and that is no longer the case, right? Even on markets that we serve 10, 12 times a day, half the people don't know who you are, right? But in Seoul, South Korea, every single person knows who Korean Air is, right? And there is power in putting one brand next to the other. Once we reach a point where we feel like we co-represent each other, and that for us gives the affinity and that customer experience, and it allows customers to know and expect what that will be, despite not having your own tail in the market. So we found that to be a winning model. It takes an incredible amount of work and co-investment and trust amongst airlines to get there, but we found it to be able to work. Yeah.
Great. Andre, you've been in this industry for a long time, and you look at a model like Delta, where they like to have an investment in an airline that they're working with. They like to have joint ventures. You're a much smaller airline. You're not going to do a lot of that stuff. I mean, unfair isn't the right word, but is that a bad development for a small airline from an island nation?
Not really. We would like some joint ventures.
Well, you would like them, but
definitely.
you don't have them, right?
Yeah. No, so we're working on a few, but it's certainly a model that I've participated before in it, and it definitely works. I often say, why compete if you can work together?
The competitive regulatory agencies don't really like to hear that. But.
Yeah, well, that's another matter.
But David, I enjoyed what you were talking about before with the way that you guys have airlines work together. But it struck me that people in the audience may not know exactly what you do or how it works. Can you just give us an example of two airlines that work together using their technology and how that connection really works?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the whole idea, and when we started this several years ago, the initial airline that we launched with was EasyJet, and that has sort of colored how we behave and kind of who we are as a business. It's more from the low cost aspect, right? So EasyJet is a rather large airline in Europe, 300 plus aircraft, but they had no connectivity across their own network and not outside of it either until we came along in 2017. So the way that this is today, we're driving a lot of connectivity and powering a lot of connectivity across the EasyJet's own network, so online connectivity effectively, still, separate tickets and all of that, and customers self-connecting effectively across all of their European ports. But maybe more importantly, for example, I'd say that one of the best partnerships that they have is with North Atlantic for the transatlantic market, and that's effectively where we're creating a market. So we allow, and Norse is also a partner airline of ours, so we allow essentially EasyJet and Norse to work together, which means that Norse flies, low cost, reasonably, or at least low fare, across the Atlantic from Gatwick to New York and a few other places, and then they tap into EasyJet's entire network of 200 destinations out of Gatwick, which and it is a partnership. They're both they are partners in this. And while people are self-connecting over Gatwick Airport, I mean, it still gives customers that access, and that's a market that wasn't there, right? So if you think, some of the biggest selling destinations or O&Ds in that kind of partnership are O&Ds that are well served in direct flights, but they're all 1,500, per, right? So here you can get them for 500, right? In a kind of low cost partnership, and you're happy to sit on, in a low cost long haul kind of flight across the Atlantic, right? So, and on the other side, we have, because we have Norse as a customer, Spirit's on the other side of that. So, so essentially Norse is tapping into Spirit's network in North America, doing exactly the same thing. So instead of having to have a bunch of kind of city pairs of their own, they are able to create a hub and spoke network, really, out of those, with those partnerships.
And when I miss my connection, neither airline takes care of me, but you do, right?
Correct, yeah. So we not only provide the technology and kind of the, let's say, the ability to sell this on the airline website, and we provide distribution, so we provide we make this available in sales channels like Google Flights and Skyscanner and Kayak, but we also serve the customers. So we take care of customers that are misconnecting and put them back on their journey into, on any airline, really. So it actually makes it gives the airline the ability to continue to run a point-to-point model in those cases, right? And yet allows them to tap into the power of connectivity and partnerships. Air France is also a customer of ours, which is a different thing. So we're enabling the connection between Air France and Transavia, their subsidiary, and that's quite different. I mean, that's a full service model and a low cost model, but still same way. So two separate kind of pieces of tech that we're kind of connecting, but we're not a middleman. We like to think of ourselves as kind of middleware. So making, facilitating that connection and serving that customer if something comes up, and it kind of works out of the box, but it makes some people's lives easier. But for those who want seamlessness, that's not really what it's about. Yes, we can do that, but it's the whole idea is to be able to give you the power of partnerships without having to go all in on massive investments and time and all of that.
Great, thank you. Jeff, time to put you on the spot again.
All right.
All right. People in this audience and me, we've heard a lot about Korean Air today.
Yeah.
But you're in SkyTeam. There are a lot of SkyTeam members in this region, Vietnam Airlines, China Eastern among them. How do they play into the strategy? Or do you kind of ignore them and it's all about Delta and Korean Air?
Yeah, no, absolutely don't ignore. SkyTeam is an important alliance for us, and there are loads of benefits that have happened through those partnerships over time. I think that what you have seen emerge over the last 5 to 10 years or so here is some of the larger players, Air France was just mentioned, KLM, Delta, Korean, Aeromexico in particular, put China Eastern in that mix as well, have really started to take a leading edge in terms of investing together to create some of these new technologies that make life as seamless as you can for customers. And I think that one of the big benefits that SkyTeam plays is they can take some of those innovations and help implement across all members that are part of that alliance, right? So sometimes it's just a matter of who goes first. But equally, we consider SkyTeam an incredibly valuable partner for us, right? And for customers who travel outside the bounds of our joint ventures, if they're on one of our SkyTeam partners, that's great. And oftentimes they're benefiting from some of those investments that we're helping to spearhead. So critical long term. Yeah.
All right, also on the agenda here, because you can't have a conference and not talk about sustainability now, is sustainability. Andre, let me ask you a question I asked to the panel earlier. They weren't as opinionated as I would have liked them to have been, but sustainable aviation fuel, SAF. We all talk about SAF all the time, like it's going to be some panacea for the industry. It's really hard to get. It's really expensive. Where are you on SAF?
So we've done our first trial flights, and obviously the big challenge for us is the cost of SAF. But we do a lot of other things. As island countries, we're highly challenged with erosion. So one of the things we do every takeoff, we plant a tree. We've planted a couple of 100,000 mangroves. They sequester 4 times more carbon than any other plant. And we even invite our passengers to do it. So they don't only swim with turtles, they plant mangroves as well. And in a little way, we're adding to the carbon challenge. But yes, SAF is a challenge, and we're hoping that they're going to start manufacture on our island soon. We have a lot of sugarcane farming and a lot of waste that can be used for production of, of SAF.
Thank you. Jimmy, a question for you. You're not an airline person, so I won't ask you about SAF, but you have all kinds of software, and some of that software has to do with operations and efficient operations. When an airline customer comes to you, is sustainability on their mind? And you need to be honest with the audience here, or are there just so many other things that they want in your software?
You're putting me on the spot by that.
I am putting you on the spot.
Yeah, not directly, I would say. I think some airlines are more particular about than the others, but I think that's not still the most burning topic, I would say. I think it varies a lot from airlines to airlines. But the good thing is, technology, again, like if you look at our flight operations system, and we've sat with some of the airlines when we've done some POCs, we can show you direct benefits of saving fuel. Now, that itself has a huge advantage on the carbon footprint because just the better utilization of your fleet and the routing of those can give you an advantage of the fuel saving, right? Now, we actually have documented that you see a direct benefit, not just of cost saving, but a carbon footprint also going down. So anything that technology can potentially touch today, make you more efficient and hence can help you with the sustainability part. But I think where it is still lacking is that benefit getting captured by the airlines proactively? I think that is still not at where it should be, I would say.
So it's more of an economic argument.
Yeah, I think it's still more of an economic argument, yes, than the sustainability argument.
Great.
I think, if I may,
Please.
A sustainability point around rail, which is not entirely air, right? But or not at all. One of the things that we've found to be sort of airlines to be quite interested in of late is the ability to connect kind of a flight sector and a rail sector, and that's one of the things that we've really gotten into recently, and we see a lot of interest in. We see regulation in France and kind of following COVID and stuff where air, pairing air and rail and allowing customers to find that efficiently is something that we see as an opportunity, and is clearly something that is getting a lot of airlines interested in partnerships with rail providers. And I think the good thing about that, and because the sort of demand for seamlessness in that context is a lot less, because you don't have that sort of, I wouldn't really want anybody to try to through check my bag or things like that onto a train. So I do think there's some merit to shorter sectors on rail combined with longer sectors kind of on air, which is probably a part of our future.
Jeff, where is Delta in terms of rail air connections?
So we started implementing some of those connections a couple years back as well, and there is customer demand for it, particularly in Europe. I would just round out the sustainability side to say, the obvious, which is there is no one single solution. If there was, we'd all, invest in that and it would be gone. So from our standpoint, our approach is basically twofold. One is focused on carbon footprint, which is, SAF, and we all know of some of the shortages. But there's also benefits you can have just by having more efficient aircraft, right? We retired our 777s during COVID and replaced those with 25% more efficient fleet at the expense of range, but at the benefit of the planet and that footprint. We've also electrified a lot of our ground equipment in LaGuardia and about 4 or 5 different hubs in the US. And we're also partnering on next generation, like with Airbus, we're working on a potential hydrogen powered aircraft, which is long into the future, but we have to start planning for that now. And then we also partner with Joby Aviation, who flies eVTOLs in LA, which I'm sure you'll appreciate, Brian, and also JFK. All those collectively help on the carbon side, but then you have to put sustainability into everything you do, right? Even with our headquarters, we have gardens that are edible for folks to go out there and enjoy. We have beehives that serve the communities, right? Just an example of those. At the airports themselves, we've electrified a lot of the equipment we have. We started to introduce bamboo, which is, in terms of cutlery and serviceware, because it's sustainable, it's light, and in doing so, replacing all of our single-use plastics, which not only is better for the environment, it saves a ton, actually 2,000 tons per year in fuel bill. So a lot of these things together, I think, are gonna help us get towards the solution. But if we don't all focus holistically on this, it's never gonna start to move.
So your job encompasses many different things, Jeff, but I presume one of them is, you're in sales, right?
Yeah.
So you go into these corporations in Asia, are they asking you, hey, Jeff, what is Delta's sustainability policy?
For sure.
Or is it just about, is my business class seat going to be cheap?
Not only do they want to know, they want to partner with us, right? There's a lot of corporations where we've conducted joint staff investments. We actually just did one with Interpark Triple in Korea's first OTA where we're partnering together to build awareness. Because as Andre said, there's not enough staff out there for us. So we're trying to get the message out. I would say this, yes, the corporations are interested, but also they want to participate. And in fact, it's part of their RFPs now. They want to choose the airlines that are going to be better for the planet, and that's what their employees want to travel as well. So that also helps reiterate it for us.
Andre, you serve a different market, right? You serve the leisure traveler. I mean, do you think there's a situation where people are picking you because you have the A350 and it burns less fuel and it's more sustainable versus the competing airline that flies an A330? Or you think the leisure traveler doesn't really care? They want to go when they want to go, where they want to go?
There are a handful that make a lot of noise. We still have some plastics on board, so obviously we have many programs, like Jeff said. It's not just fuel, and it's across the board. And we have a few customers. Obviously, we're a strong proponent of Fiji water. We complain about the plastic. But at the end of the day, the water's good. And then they're happy. So yes, I wouldn't say they choose us, the aircraft, as the means. They come to Fiji to enjoy the experience.
Great. All right. Well, thank you very much to the panel. I've had a great time here. It is time for lunch, and this was wonderful. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.